Hello everyone, welcome back to Learning with Dogs. My name's Kristen, and today we're going to talk about interactive feeding toys. Interactive feeding toys are toys like these that we can put dog food, your dog's kibble into, and they have to kind of solve a puzzle or use their brain a little bit to figure out how to get the food out. It's not just a big open bowl of food that they get once or twice a day. It's a toy that they slowly graze off of throughout the day. It's amazing what this does for your dog and for their brain, especially for a dog that spends a lot of time home alone. If you work full-time jobs and your dog is home frequently, interactive feeding toys will make a huge difference in your dog's well-being. It gives them something mentally to do and also just kind of slows down their eating as well. I notice with my dogs, when I feed them through the interactive feeding toys, they actually have better gut digestion. They're eating slower, smaller amounts throughout the day rather than gorging themselves once or twice a day. And I think that really does make a difference for their guts. I know for my guts, if I sit down and gorge myself, it definitely do not feel good the next day. So I think that's one of the big benefits for your dog. So choosing an interactive feeding toy, there's so many of them out there now. This one here is one of my favorites. It's called the Bob-A-Lot. The Bob-A-Lot is weighted on the bottom, so the dog hits it with his nose and pieces of kibble can fall out through the little trap door here. You can slide the door to make it bigger or smaller depending on how big the kibble is that your dog is eating. The one thing I don't like about this one is it has this tiny little hole in the top to refill. It'll hold about 3 cups of food in the large, but that tiny hole gets kind of annoying to fill, especially if you have a larger kibble size. So on mine, I took a Dremel and Dremeled that hole out, so I made a larger opening in the top, and it allowed me to just dump the kibble in faster. So if you have someone able to do that for you, it really does make a big difference, so you can fill it faster. One of my favorites, especially for crate training, going in cars, or for service dogs needing to lay quietly for a long time, one of my favorites is the Kong stuffed with their kibble that has been soaked overnight in water. So that makes it kind of canned food consistency and gives them something to lick out of here. So when you're working with your young puppies, they don't have a very long tongue or very strong jaw yet. So we don't want to make it super hard on them. I soak the kibble and then lightly pack it into the Kong so they can succeed at getting it all the way out. The other thing I'll do is just as your puppy starts growing, you can start making the Kong a little bit harder. And you do that by gradually making it more and more frozen until eventually, if you have a really good big chewer, you can have a fully frozen Kong, and it's going to take them a while to get that popsicle of food out of there. So Kong is color coded, and I always recommend just going straight to black for French Bulldogs and Labs. A lot of dogs are pretty good chewers, especially if we've reinforced chewing. So the black is the most durable, and I've had some black Kongs for 20 years and they're still around. So they're a good investment. That'll be around forever. So there's lots of different, as I said, different companies making various interactive feeding toys. This one is built with a rubber band on the inside, so it rolls back and forth, kind of like the little toy cars we used to play with. And this one is another just kind of like a ball type thing. You load the kibble into the hole and there's a maze inside of it. You can tell this one's very well used. The dogs love these interactive feeding toys, and it makes the toys fun and reinforces them chewing on appropriate things. And like I said before, it really reinforces and gives the brain the right things to think about. Instead of getting bored and going and chewing on your furniture while you're gone, they'll get bored and go and play with their interactive feeding toys. So my recommendation on feeding with interactive feeding toys is to feed the dogs for the rest of their lives through the interactive feeding toys. unless your dog ends up with a mobility issue that disables them from being able to participate with those toys, I would most definitely encourage that every dog use the interactive feeding toys. Find one that's appropriate hardness for your dog. Like if you end up needing to just use black Kongs because your dog destroys the other toys, then that's totally fine. That's an interactive feeding toy. So just do what works for you and your dog, but I do highly encourage you to find at least one interactive feeding toy to have for your dog. Thank you for joining us on Learning with Dogs. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.